Broadcasting from our New England studio, Solutions Review is proud to showcase Qrvey in the Solution Spotlight, an inside look at enterprise technologies.
I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review, and welcome to the Solution Spotlight featuring Qrvey, and focused on how SaaS companies win with self-service analytics and AI. AI-driven self-service analytics has evolved from a nice-to-have to a defining feature of modern B2B SaaS products. Delivering it in a multi-tenant environment is notoriously difficult, but it doesn't have to be. So today, we will explore why now is the ideal time to elevate your product experience and give your users the power to explore data, uncover insights, and take action fast. And to walk you through this presentation, we're happy to be joined by Qrvey's CTO, David Abramson, for an inside look at how SaaS companies are creating valuable differentiation, improving product stickiness, and generating new revenue streams with self-service analytics and AI. David Abramson, thank you very much for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad you're here because at Solutions Review, this is the greatest time ever. We have technology hitting in ways that we haven't seen in a generation. And I would be very curious, before we get going actually, to learn a little bit more about your journey and kind of what gets you excited about this moment in time. I mean, you've been CTO for a while now, but you've been in the space. I think you started actually probably on the end user side, if I read your LinkedIn profile correctly. Tell us a little bit more about how you've arrived at this moment.
Yeah, no, that's you're absolutely right. I think this is a very exciting time to be building software for sure. And my background, I've been either building or helping companies build and deploy software for the better part of over 2 decades. And even here at Qrvey as CTO, our main focus is helping software SaaS companies essentially improve and enhance their software offerings by providing their end customers, their end users, with a comprehensive set of rich embedded analytical capabilities that they can essentially ship as part of their own products. And in my background, since I've been on the build side and helping deliver software to customers, I know what it's like to have to hit those deadlines and meet the challenges that customers are always demanding of us. And so finding ways to do that quickly, efficiently, and with compelling outcomes offers certainly great value.
Well, so I know you have a lot you're going to cover, and I want to let you get after it, but I'm going to have a lot of questions, I'm sure. But I don't want to break the flow. So I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you're going to walk through a few slides, and then you're going to get into an actual live demo, which is exciting. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and when you're all done and ready to wrap it up, just give me a sign, and I will pop back in, and we'll have a nice Q&A session.
Yep, sounds fantastic. So yeah, I'll kick it off. As I mentioned, my name is David Abramson, and I am the CTO here at Qrvey. And a little bit about my background. I've just been over the last 20 plus years been working with hundreds of SaaS companies to help them get more value out of their data by helping them implement embedded analytics into their own software offerings. And that's really what Qrvey is all about. We started the business and designed our technology and platform specifically for the SaaS use case in mind. To support SaaS products, tenants, and users by offering the richest set of multi-tenant embedded analytic features that they can essentially white label and integrate into their own products and offerings. And we've got a very great collection of companies who are taking our technology and deploying and offering these feature sets and capabilities downstream to their end users and tenants within their product sets. Just to talk a little bit about where we're headed with the discussion today, we've already sort of introduced the topic on why both self-service and AI are incredibly important when building software today. I think the first section, we're going to really talk a little bit about why self-service for SaaS is really more important than ever. we'll jump into the demo where we actually showcase how you can implement not just self-service, but also AI capabilities when it comes to your multi-tenant embedded analytics. And then we'll also talk about what that means for monetization and how you can essentially generate new revenue streams within your products as well with these types of capabilities within your software solutions. Now, as you're probably aware, being in software, pretty much everything seems to be trending toward the self-service use case. Whether it is adoption of AI, particularly things like generative AI, where people just now want to type things into a prompt and get the answers that way, or even just the overall pressures that product teams are under to help deliver more and more value to their customers. The ability to do that in a self-service way offers tons of new opportunity. And we know that the expectations that end users have, just continuing to go up and up. Everybody wants to be able to do things on their own. They don't necessarily want to have to go and seek out all of the answers through, the more traditional means. They want to be able to do things in a fully self-service experience because end users are savvier than ever. They're becoming more specialized. They're more data savvy. And they're just looking for ways to leverage software in the best possible options for their data. And this is backed up by actual studies and facts. We know that AI adoption is growing, as probably everybody listening in is aware. Over the last several years, especially generative AI adoption has effectively doubled, and that continues to trend upwards, even though we haven't gotten the actual data yet for 2025. We know that it continues to rapidly increase. And what that means is SaaS companies need to start planning how they're going to incorporate those generative AI features into their tools and products, particularly when it comes to your data and analytics, because that's what most people are using the generative AI for. How do you get better insights out of the data? How do you create content, maybe publish it and share it? And all of that can be a good driver for the types of self-service use cases that customers need. So adding those generative AI-powered features into your analytic product roadmap, there's a couple of great ways you can do that. Whether it's to help your developer productivity, maybe you're using Gen AI to help create the actual content that's going into your products, or maybe it's a little bit further down where you're helping both power users and end users, either through data exploration, AI-powered insights, or even with more chat-oriented interfaces to provide things like suggestions and recommendations for new insights and new value that they can gain from the analytics and the data within the solution. And this really bleeds into certainly self-service, because the more AI you introduce, the more flexibility users are going to demand when it comes to self-service within their products and applications. And as we see here, pretty much everyone now expects that your products offer them some form of self-service. And analytics is an excellent place to start, because you're never going to be able to keep up with all the demands for the different types of reports and dashboards and visualizations that people need to sort of slice and dice and analyze. Therefore, offering that in a fully self-service way can essentially satisfy these customer expectations in meaningful ways. And so what that means and what that ends up looking like in an embedded analytics implementation, offering those self-service tools, whether it's creating dashboards from scratch, creating charts and metrics, using no-code drag and drop interfaces, creating things like custom filters, even maybe some workflows or alerts, and the ability to collaborate and share with other types of users. All of that can lead to a very rich and compelling self-service experience within your product, particularly around the data use cases. And as you incorporate more generative AI, those use cases can be satisfied with these types of self-service tools as well. So how does a company like Qrvey help? Well, there's a lot of things that we can do to meet those needs and those challenges. As we already know, customers want more. Maybe this isn't part of your wheelhouse in terms of your expertise in how to deliver these types of rich capabilities. And so companies come to us, they work with Qrvey, and they can leverage our technology to deliver this type of value. And that also means helping you deliver maybe some new subscription options or tiers within your product, as well as what we'll talk about a little bit later. How do you monetize these things to generate additional revenue or additional value from your customers within your software offerings? Because today, pretty much every SaaS company needs to be an analytics company as well. It's not just about collecting data and letting users kind of perform the day-to-day tasks. It's about how do you create opportunities to understand and gain insights about the data and the types of things that users are doing every day within your products. And it's all about that insight. How do you create that value? How do you provide a rich set of visualizations, those AI-driven insights, and maybe even some of those automations for customers so that they can dig into the data in the way that they need in a fully self-service way, whether it be through filtering, drill downs, dashboards, and different types of actions, or just fully AI-powered types of insights that you could potentially offer your customers within your product suite. And then from the development standpoint, how do you create more agility for your product team? Well, product team, they like to develop, they like to build these capabilities, but how do you get to market fast? Everybody knows, time is money. And then how do you build all of these different types of capabilities? Well, leveraging technology like a Qrvey solution where you can essentially just plug and play with the built-in tools to provide the self-service and integrated AI capabilities, all of that wrapped with native multi-tenant security within the solution, essentially offers you the fastest time to market when it comes to delivering this type of self-service and AI-powered value for your data and analytics down to your customers. And it's all about the growth. How do you scale that? How do you then provide additional features and services? How do you provide additional roadmap capabilities and those new opportunities to grow your revenue and grow your product suite for your customers? So all of that can be enabled and powered by the Qrvey platform and technology embedded into your solution. And last but not least, we can talk about the AI feature sets and AI capabilities that really allow you to get to the most compelling end user experience within your product. It's all about being able to deliver AI-driven analytical results, being able to find information with natural language, being able to integrate with APIs and all of the data and security models that you want to have. And then how do you implement all the different interactions, whether it's through tool sets like LLMs and the models and prompts that those will be driven by, or more developer-oriented integrations like MCP servers for instruction sets, and how do you power your product through a different set of AI tools and capabilities within your software offerings. So all that sort of blends together in creating that next level of self-service interactions that you can offer downstream to your customers. Okay, so at this point, we're going to take a look at some examples of how this could be displayed and be rendered, embedded into your product suite with a quick demo of some of the interactive self-service capabilities within the Qrvey offering. So I'm going to jump in real quickly into a couple of different scenarios here for how Qrvey can work when it comes to incorporating both self-service and AI-powered capabilities in your application interfaces. So what you're seeing on screen right now, this is a pretty typical interactive embedded data visualization dashboard widget control powered by the Qrvey stack. As you can see, we have a lot of metrics that we're looking at. We have a variety of different types of chart visualizations, and everything here supports different types of interactions, whether it's click actions to filter, or leveraging even the custom visualizations to drill and filter on the data, or drill down into different levels of detail as users are exploring the data and information. So tons of flexibility to offer users a variety of different options for them to select, integrate with different data properties, and adjust the data information that they're seeing. These are all kind of very basic types of interactions that we're leveraging, whether it's a filter or a drill down. Maybe you want to explore the data with a sort of a drill through into underlying information or details that you're looking at within the interface. So tons of flexibility to kind of offer a different sets of interactions and details within the UI. But in addition to this, when it comes to what we call self-service, it's all about letting the users customize their own experience. And what does self-service customization end up looking like? Well, you can do lots of different things. You might choose to let customers change the data that they're looking at. So instead of grouping by one series, you could group by a completely different series. Instead of looking at data in weeks, you might let users change the aggregations and how the data is calculated. And so tons of flexibility to offer different options on the fly within the interface. This could also mean even changing the type of visual that we're looking at. So instead of the columns chart, we could adjust it to look at maybe a line chart presentation, or really any other type of presentation that might provide a little bit more meaningful access to the data and the output that we're working with. This could also include even doing things like adjusting how the data is sorted, and changing even the types of information that we're seeing within the different axes or the different properties of the detailed data that we're working with within the UI. So a lot of flexibility to let users kind of customize, adjust. But this is all from an existing template. What if we said, hey, I don't want to pre-build any of these types of controls for my customers. I want to let them drive their outcomes. Well, that's another layer of self-service and features that you can offer to your customers with embedded Qrvey technology. So instead of just making those quick adjustments and changes, we could start from this template, but we could also create from scratch. And that's where we get into the true power of self-service, where letting users actually design their own components, collaborate with others, and even publish those out so other colleagues or other members of that same customer or tenant group can actually share and see the types of things that users are building within their organization. So here we have, again, kind of a blank canvas as a starting point. We can either inject, maybe you have a library of existing chart controls that you want to select from, and I can pick and choose from this existing library, and I want to just load these into the canvas and start sort of organizing and drag and drop and creating the components or controls that build those reports and dashboards for me. You could build charts from scratch as well. Create a new chart. I select the data that I want to work with. And again, through basic drag and drop techniques, I can select the data that I want. I can choose the different value series. I can aggregate how I want to aggregate the data. And then from there, I can style it and customize it in any way. Or I could even do things like adjust or change the type of visualizations that I want to work with. So the full suite and library of self-service tools are available to me to be able to generate and customize and create any of the content that I want to see. But now, as we get into the age of AI, what if my users don't want to have to use the same drag and drop techniques and have to understand everything that's happening sort of within the data model before they start building any of the outputs? Well, another option that we do provide is to use generative AI prompts to create any of the output and content. So instead of dragging and selecting the data that I want, all I need to do is point it at the data that I want to analyze, and using the sort of open-ended natural language prompt, I can just ask questions to gain those insights. So maybe I want to learn, what is my monthly trend based on the data that I'm working with here. And based off of this, I can simply enter that query into the prompt, and let the system sort of do its thing, right? We're pointing it at the large language model, and based off of that, it's going to return the output that matches the typed in prompt query. And so essentially what it's doing, it's explaining how it got to this outcome. It's saying to analyze that trend, we're going to look at this line chart. We're going to use the dates and group them into those months. And then we're going to count up the details and essentially add that series so that we can just differentiate across the locations within our data. So just like that, I enter the prompt, it generates the output that I want to see. And if I'm satisfied with this, I can easily add that into the visualization and output and share that with other users, or with any sort of generative AI tool. I've created a conversation so I can continue to iterate, ask additional questions, change things about the visualization, and then use the prompt to continue to iterate on top of the outputs that we're working with. But maybe I'm satisfied with that presentation. And then you still have the ability in the full self-service mode to go into the more traditional editing style models. Maybe instead of months, I want to look at weeks. Maybe I want to change how the data is summarized, or maybe I want to look at a different metric that we're working off of. So being able to iterate and make those changes gives me a ton of flexibility to kind of adjust even once you start auto-generating these components through the different AI services that you're working with as well. Now, on the other side, we can also use AI tools to further explore the data once we've already generated the outputs in our visual presentations, our reports and dashboards. And so it's not just about using AI to actually build and create the content in the full self-service model. Once we already have our outputs, maybe I'm interested in understanding a little bit more detail about what's happening within any of these visualizations. And so from that, I can actually analyze these visuals using AI services. And in this model, what the AI can do is it can even suggest some insightful questions I might choose to ask. So, maybe I want to leverage some of the questions that it's sort of predefining for me, and can say, hey, how do I look into this data in a little bit more insights? Or maybe I just want to use the prompt to ask other questions that the AI system hasn't thought of. And so this is now how we can dig into the data in much more detail using the different AI services incorporated into our end user applications. So maybe I want to look and see, why is there a spike in Q2, right? So I want to understand a little bit more about how that's going to work. And so I can allow the AI generative system to help me analyze that data in a little bit more detail, and then give me some insights into why I might have, some of those outcomes that I'm trying to understand. So in this case, maybe it was due to some of the seasonality, or maybe some promotions that I was running. And then because of that, I can then take that and continue to ask further questions, or I can use that to inform the additional self-service outcomes that I'm going to want to generate within my additional charts and outputs in the UI. So as we can see, there's a lot of great opportunities to introduce not just full self-service style capabilities, whether it's designing, interacting, creating content, to leveraging those integrated AI-based services, prompts to help generate content, prompts to help dig in and analyze content in much more defined details. And all of these come together to create that additional value for your customers. And as we kind of wrap up the demo here, this is exactly why SaaS companies choose to leverage technology like what we offer with Qrvey. It's all about that embedded, fully customizable, self-service set of capabilities to let your customers create, design, not just sort of the dashboard outputs, but integrated with the AI tools and those type of capabilities. And then also leverage that with the full stack of technology, the data engine, the full secure, scalable multi-tenant architecture, and all of it can sit and live side by side with your product, deployed natively into your own cloud infrastructure. So got to get the best of all worlds when it comes to not just the end user interactions, but the scalable technology stack and the fully deployed solution that lives and operates entirely within your tech stack as part of your overall product suite and product offering. So last thing I just wanted to kind of touch on as well is, now that you understand sort of what's driving this innovation and why you need to be planning for these new feature sets and capabilities as part of your software offerings, because of the AI capabilities that are constantly evolving and innovating, plus the demand for self-service. And then we saw how that can be implemented with different self-service capabilities in the demo of some of the capabilities inside the Qrvey platform. But then how do we introduce that into our product and even help monetize that to create additional value for our customers? Well, we have customers that have already done this. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the models and some of the strategies that they went through to showcase how that can work within a typical SaaS solution. So this first example that I'm going to sort of run through here is all about how to create models for a value-based pricing increase. And for this customer, their goal was to essentially differentiate their product, obviously with the self-service and AI-generated capabilities, but then use that to charge for additional add-ons above the sort of base tier of the subscription into their product. And overall, their goal was to essentially hit some pretty aggressive additional revenue coming after that first year of initial product development investment. And the way that they differentiated their product was in 3 tiers. So the first tier was basically the pre-built components. So accessing all the historical data and generating pre-built dashboards and embedding those into their software solution. The second tier was introducing more data types, including even some external sources of data, along with offering customers real-time data access and real-time analysis of the data. And then the third tier finally introduced the ability to monetize the user-created content. So self-service analyses, how they're building their own content, and then allowing those users to create essentially unlimited outputs. So the ability for users to just get in there and do whatever they needed to construct their own sort of self-service analyses as part of the product offering. So those 3 tiers really help them to differentiate and create new opportunities to upsell and charge for those add-ons when it came to delivering the software capabilities in their product. The second example here was a customer who looked at it based more on a volume pricing model. So instead of just the value add tiers, it was really about factoring in all of the total volume of not just the usage, but the overall customer license that they're working with, and then extending that by offering these additional packages of tools and solutions. So the base package was just access to some of the essential self-service for users to edit, view, export, and create and modify, but they limited how much actual content could be created. So imposing some restrictions on what users could do. For users who wanted unlimited access and unlimited create opportunities, that was the enterprise package. So they could create kind of, again, a volume-based model with limits and no limits on what the users could actually do within the solution. And then they certainly leave themselves open for future add-ons. So adding capabilities like automation and workflows, additional tools around forecasting and detection of outliers, and then certainly all of the AI suite features. So the analysis through AI and the design and creation of components through AI, as well as all of the backend integrations with APIs and MCP services that are available in the Qrvey stack as well. So lots of opportunities, not just to create the initial packaging models, but then also adding future growth opportunities with additional add-on tools and additional packages that could come with the extended roadmap. Now, typical path to how that monetization strategy can work. These are just some sort of rough timelines for what it looks like as you're planning your next steps and initiative. Oftentimes it's going to start with a proof of concept, and then we kind of get into the meat of the implementation from the onboarding, which is all about mapping and planning the solution, to the MVP launch and maybe a limited production rollout, to the full expansion into a complete self-service implementation across the entire user base and tenant workspace. And these are pretty typical timelines for what we see our partners and their go-to-market strategy and how they're getting into production in front of their customers, leveraging the Qrvey technology as part of their embedded analytic offerings. Okay, so let's talk about where that leaves us. Obviously, we've seen how much AI and self-service can be changing the way that you need to be thinking about how you're going to deliver value to your customers. And we hope that you consider companies like Qrvey to help you get there. We like to think about it as future-proofing your software because, again, oftentimes, you can kind of get bogged down in answering customer requests and not necessarily thinking about what are all of these exciting new opportunities, particularly in the world of data and analytics, generative AI, and self-service. And so the robustness of a platform like Qrvey and our continuously evolving roadmap helps you create essentially an integrated software strategy to not only deliver value today, but also to continue to deliver value as you iterate and release new versions of your software. And then thinking about how you can use the technology to help create new value, better monetization opportunities within your software. And as you saw from the previous slide, you can get there oftentimes much, much faster than you think, because a lot of the stuff can be very easily integrated and dropped right into your production solution in a matter of, oftentimes weeks. So if you're interested to learn more, I'd certainly encourage you to reach out. You can certainly book a demo. And one of the things that we're also providing everybody with is a comprehensive embedded analytics evaluation guide that you can use as you start down this path of figuring out how you need to evolve your software and your technology. But we do also have a ton of other tools, including a developer playground, our interactive vendor scorecard, and certainly some additional tools around ROI and how you can measure that a little bit easier as you're beginning this evaluation path to understanding how embedded analytics can help you enhance and improve your overall software offering. So that's it for my slides and presentation. But I'm happy here to answer questions or continue the discussion with whichever direction you want.
Well, I actually, but there's a lot that I want to dig into, but I don't want to skip over a point that I made in the intro and also a point you made in your intro, which is this idea of multi-tenant analytics. Why is that hard to do? Because I believe it is hard to do, and it's kind of I don't want to bury the lead there. That's kind of an important element to all this, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Multi-tenant is sort of the bread and butter of all SaaS, right? So in almost all cases, your SaaS application is going to be serving multiple tenants or multiple customers. Now, the reason why multi-tenant analytics is difficult is because traditionally, analytics solutions, so if you're looking at commercial off-the-shelf products, they're all designed for enterprise or internal analysis of data. So think a single organization who wants to gain insights about how their data is performing or how their business is performing. They're using these technologies, these products to help do that. However, the SaaS implementation of analytics was sort of overlooked in that use case, right? You have kind of enterprise analytics, which is great for an individual organization or individual company, but it doesn't really match the needs of a SaaS business when it comes to analyzing data for multiple companies. And ultimately, maybe you even want to do things like benchmark across industries or benchmark across geographies, or do these things where you're taking data and not just using it to analyze for the betterment of a specific group or a specific tenant, but also using it to sort of match up or benchmark yourselves against the industry or some other segment of people. And you have to do that in a way where the data remains secure. And you have to do that in a way where access is guaranteed, that you're only accessing the information that your company or your role is allowed to access within the solution. So that's why it's hard. There's security challenges that people don't think about. There's data challenges that create a whole new world of complexity when it comes to multi-tenant implementation. And these are all the things that we've thought about. So at Qrvey, we started from that goal in mind to create a comprehensive solution around supporting a multi-tenant embedded analytics use case. And so everything that we build in the software is designed for that specific need. So security, role and access credentials, entitlements, all of that logic is configured and can be configured to support the multi-tenant SaaS implementation.
So it feels like we're in Middle Earth with regard to where we're headed. That self-service and low code, no code, all these terms that were kind of the last 5 or 10 years are now morphing into agentic AI for all intents and purposes. And I think the end state that people are kind of predicting is kind of autonomous agents that begin to operate as data analysts. I don't know, where do you see this all kind of in the current moment, and what are going to be some of the limitations with regard to trying to get to that end state? And do we really ever get to that? Are the agents really coming?
So they're definitely coming, but I think it's important to caveat it with it's really still all about the application, right? So without the application, the agents can't really do anything. And I think that's really important to understand about how AI fits into certainly software and software development and end user experience. Because if they don't have the right instructions and the right sort of outcomes to seek out, you really don't have a lot of utility for many of the AI tools and prompts that could exist. And so I think it's all about mapping the AI services to the right application use cases. And this is where I think certainly SaaS businesses, SaaS companies have an amazing opportunity to provide that value. Because if you can orchestrate your products through AI agents, prompts, generative AI services, that's a fantastic opportunity to sort of alleviate the burden of self-service from the coder, right? So now all of a sudden, you don't have to create all of these new interfaces and drag and drop tools and all of these ways for somebody to navigate a UI. You can essentially just use the prompt as the interface and have it talk to the outcomes that your application is expecting. And I think that's the amazing opportunity that exists today for any SaaS company, is to start incorporating that as the interface for their products. And because you already have the outcomes that people are expecting, whether it's an application that's doing inventory or if it's an application that's doing CRM style customer management, or maybe it's in a healthcare setting, all of these applications have very well-defined outcomes that traditionally you would have to build interfaces to be able to leverage. Now with generative AI and all of these more prompt-based and agent-based models, you don't necessarily have to spend a huge amount of time constructing new interfaces. The interface is the prompt, and your application and the work that the application can do is sort of the outcome that the prompt can help you achieve. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity immediately. This isn't the future, this is happening now. And so where does it go in the future? I think you have a lot of opportunities now to then continue to extend what your application can do, because you don't have to worry so much about building all these new interfaces. You can worry more about what are the additional outcomes you want your application to have. And that's why I think the data side of it is really compelling, because you have all this data already. You don't need to necessarily build all these new interfaces. You can just essentially point the AI at the data and let it uncover the insights for the customer, for the users, or even for the development team to help them build more application outcomes. So yeah, there's some really interesting opportunities that exist immediately, and then all the future opportunities that can come once you start essentially automating and I don't know, AI-ifying all of the interfaces of your systems.
Well, I mean, you showed it in one of your slides, the adoption of generative AI, and how human behavior ultimately kind of seeks ease and comfort, and so the prompt-based interfaces and prompt-based applications, tools, enablement is going to be table stakes. I mean, there's just no question about it that the more people use generative AI, the more they're going to expect to be able to use a similar interface within their other software applications, and expect it to behave in a similar manner by prompting other prompts, I guess, is a way to think about it, as you demonstrated. But I'm curious about how that integrates. So the flip side to all that, and you mentioned a little bit about security, but certainly the flip side to all of that is how does the integration work? Where are the kind of limitations in terms of what it can produce in terms of prompting with the access to the data that it has? How much does it seek the LLM data? I mean, where have you found the kind of, going as far as you can without necessarily compromising on the security?
Well, security is certainly, one of the most important aspects of any sort of SaaS software solution in the development mindset of how you need to make sure that, obviously users are only getting access to what they're supposed to have access to. With that in mind, I think one of the things that we've done at Qrvey is the way we integrate is a fully deployed solution. So even though all of our customers operate as SaaS businesses, Qrvey, because we're so close to the data, we don't operate as a SaaS. We're actually a fully deployed solution where it lives essentially alongside your own company's software. And so with that, the security is essentially inherent to the deployment model, where you don't have to send data outside of your firewall. You don't have to send data to third parties. It can all live together. And I think it's an important thing to understand where the data is going when you're doing anything with these interactions and feature sets and capabilities. And certainly the AI implementations are no different. Again, that's why even the way Qrvey is implemented, all of the AI services, it's essentially a bring your own model style model, where you can point it at your existing AI models, or if you want to use any of the publicly available ones, that's certainly fine to leverage. You want to leverage OpenAI's options, or any of the Google or AWS or Azure services. All of those are available to you to leverage as part of the integrations. But it's key. Yeah, security is very, very important in this world. And I think the opportunity that we're offering is to maintain all of your own data privacy and security because of the fact that it is a fully deployed solution within your own application firewalls.
Well, and so there is a bonus gift for all the attendees with regard to receiving Qrvey's comprehensive embedded analytics evaluation guide for SaaS leaders, which we'll have up on the screen there, and you will all receive for being a registered attendee. But I wanted to ask about the implementation timelines around self-service analytics. So how does it, after people have seen this and they're jazzed up and they come through the front door and engage, what does it look like on the implementation timeline?
Yeah, so I did share some rough kind of timelines that we've seen across our implementations with our current partners and customers. I'd say it's really essentially a tiered or a sort of a phased approach typically to anything you're going to do when it comes to embedded analytics, with the first phase being, how do you just validate that you're going to get to the outcome that you want through something like a POC. Usually the POC is also something that can be used for consensus building, whether it be internal team consensus, say, hey, yes, this is what we want to continue to work on and build, or maybe it's, how do I get this in front of some customers to pilot it and say, hey, is this what you guys are looking for? And then we can continue to iterate on top of that. And that process is typically something that takes no more than 2 to 3 weeks. We've seen, especially with the Qrvey model, a POC, usually, especially if you're using it for that sort of consensus building model, can be wrapped up in a very, very short time frame. And then once you kind of have the end goal in sight, it's all about how do you do the implementation. And because we've created all these great tools for not just sort of building and planning, but also publishing of the interface and the ease of integration, we're really talking about weeks instead of months to even get the initial product launch and implemented. So, we've had some customers get to market in production with a full set of end user facing self-service tools in a matter of about 6 weeks. So it can be very fast turnaround once you kind of know and understand what you're trying to achieve. You can get there pretty quickly. And then from there, kind of the iteration is the sky's the limit, right? You can take it as far as you want, or you can continue to kind of launch new versions and capabilities and decide how you want to package this up and certainly monetize those if you need to in the future.
So it's interesting. Our perspective from all the things that we're seeing is that it feels like there's a decent segment of the end user market that is almost paralyzed by this moment, where they're afraid to kind of purchase anything while so much change is happening and there's rumors and investment about all these other things that are coming. And I'm curious about your perspective, because you're seeing things being built and you're seeing products succeed more than others. What do you see the market gravitating toward? I mean, what are some of the larger, functionalities, I guess, that are gaining traction with some of the SaaS companies that you're partnering with?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an interesting time right now because there's a lot more scrutiny on certainly every aspect of the business, whether it's, just overall, customer satisfaction to customer retention to how do you grow. But that is also being felt in developer organizations. I would say, a few years ago, what people chose to build and how they went about building it was probably far less scrutinized than it is today within any development organization. And so you have to be able to justify what you're working on more so than ever. And I think we're seeing that becoming easier and easier once you start looking at these opportunities that do exist with both what we are defining as self-service, as well as how you can incorporate different types of AI components or AI prompts into your application interfaces. Because once you start doing that, you stop sort of chasing your tail in the sense that, I've seen companies really just kind of get bogged down in customer requests where they say, hey, customers keep demanding these things, and now I need to just continuously iterate and respond to what the customers want from me, where you can sort of shift the burden, right? You can say, hey, instead of continuously working and playing catch up to what customers are asking for, how about I give them interfaces where they can essentially do it themselves? But I don't want to give them work. So the more interfaces I can create that are easy, especially through things like AI-driven prompts, the faster not only I can give them what they need, but the easier it is for them to continue to iterate without having to, bog my development team down with all these requests that kept, coming in. So it helps not just justify your end goal, which is to give your customers higher value, but it also helps you alleviate the burden on your engineering teams because now you're not continuously just responding to the requests that are coming in from the field.
Yeah, it's an exciting time, and this has been incredibly interesting and beneficial. And again, we would encourage everybody who's registered for this to engage with Qrvey and have these value-added conversations. You're not only going to be able to talk to one of the leading solution providers that can handle this, but you're going to get some more perspective from all the other things that they're working on and seeing. And you can't sit still. This is just no time to be sitting still. You have to start building. You have to build better. And so best of luck, David. This is, like I said, been very informative. Thanks for coming on. And I can only imagine what the next couple of years are going to be like, but get some sleep as well.
Fantastic. Yep. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So there you have it. Another solution in our spotlight. We want to thank David Abramson and Qrvey for that presentation today, and we appreciate your attendance as well. Until next time, I'm Doug Atkinson here at Solutions Review. Thanks for watching.
If your business would like to be featured in a future event, contact us today.